Hello, welcome back. I'm Katrina Morton and I'm a sensory-motor psychotherapist. Today I want to talk to you about attachment. Attachment is something that a lot of people seem quite confused about. We've all heard of it, well most of us have, and we understand a little bit about it, but we don't really understand why it's important, why it's significant, and where it's come from, how we develop it. The first thing I always say to people when I start to talk about attachment or to look at somebody's attachment style is attachment and love are not, they don't equate to the same thing. But sometimes the way that our emotional needs and our physical needs have been met and treated has resulted in us developing a particular attachment style. One way that I often explain it to people is it's about the response we get. If you've got a toddler toddling around and he falls on his bottom and gets a shock and cries, then depending on the response that that child gets, it will form the way that they relate to their carer and the way that they relate to something happening to them. If the carer has a secure attachment style, then they'll assess the situation, assess the level of distress, and give appropriate attention to get the child to stop crying, to feel comfortable, to feel safe enough to get back up and toddle again. Now, if that approach is inconsistent, the child learns it's never quite sure what it's going to get. Sometimes it might get a really appropriate response, sometimes it might get ignored, sometimes it might get an angry or a frustrated response. That's much more likely to give an ambivalent message. If the child always gets ignored, then it learns not to put out the distress cry and to deal with the pain themselves. So they become very self-sufficient. They learn to self-soothe. If it's met with hostility, then that child is more likely to develop a disorganised attachment. Now, depending on what response we get and what combination of responses we get, will depend upon how we view our own needs and how we view support and help from others. And these things are really important to know. One, for our self-care and our relationship to ourselves. It also has a massive impact on relationships, on how much we're able to be honest and open and vulnerable in relationships, or how much we will be a people pleaser, trying to second guess what the other person might want, and our focus becomes much more on the other person and much less on our own needs. Because it's about our needs and our emotional capacity and how easily we know we can be regulated by others, then it builds our resilience. That resilience and that ability to cope with things when they happen, with incidents and experiences, means that we build a bigger container for that. And we're much less likely to be overwhelmed when things happen to us, and we're much less likely to suffer from trauma from an event. Our attachments are evolving. And if we think about the journey we have through our early years, it's not just been our parents, our carers, it's with our siblings, it's with extended family members. They may have a completely different way of relating to our emotional and physical needs. So we can have more than one attachment style. We may have one predominant one, but we may have other attachment styles that show up and play out in different experiences and different scenarios with different people. When I started training, way back when I was training in my social work career, I was taught that at the age of 7, our attachment style was set. And back then, the age of adoption was set at 7 because it was felt that there was no progress, no repair, no development possible after that time. We now know that is completely not the case. As adults, we can change our attachments. The other myth about attachment is that we always recreate the attachment that we've had with our parents, our carers. That's not the case. It was, again, something I was taught, but I've seen it play out so differently. The thing that doesn't tend to change is we do recreate our attachment style in regard to ourselves. We are much more likely to treat our own emotional needs and our own physical needs in the way that they've been treated, have the same kind of narration and the same set of behaviours. Our attachment affects so many fundamental things: what we believe about ourselves, what we believe will happen, our confidence to take things forward and build on things, our ability to self-sabotage or fulfill our full potential. One of the main features of attachment behaviour is behaviour first and then self-awareness and thought and cognition second. Because our attachment is part of our survival mechanism, it's not something we have a choice in. We have to create an attachment with our carer. When we know that attachment is playing out, it's because of those behaviours that afterwards we go, why did I do that? Why did I say that? That's not what I wanted to say. I wanted to say something completely different. I wanted to say, no, I'm not okay. Or, no, I don't agree with that. But I didn't. And we make these pacts with ourselves and we say, next time I'm not going to do that. Which is why we have to be able to observe ourselves, our behaviour and our impulses. We have to have that observer that can go, what am I doing right now? Why am I doing that? The more you can learn about your attachment style and the different attached parts that you have, because they're always very young. They're young parts that will play out. The more you can look after them, the more you can feel more in control of them, the easier things will be for you. It'll be less of a mystery. It will help you have the kind of relationships that you want. Because it's such a fundamental thing, it does seep into almost every part of your life, way more than you probably realise. These patterns will repeat in other areas of your life, in work, in sport, in all sorts of things. So the more you can understand it, the more you can work out what your attachment style is, the more you can understand what's playing out and likely to catch the behaviours before they just keep going into these familiar patterns. It tells you so much about yourself and it just allows you to grow and develop, to expand these things, to not be just caught into one set of ways of doing things. The more you know, the more you can change, the more you can be understanding, empathic, compassionate with yourself, the more your growth can be. I really hope this has been helpful and that it's given you some understanding. There'll be loads of questions, I'm sure. So please just send us any questions, any comments on this. We'd be really glad to hear them. So I can't remember how I finish. If you've enjoyed this video, please give us a big thumbs up, like and subscribe below. Thank you ever so much for watching and we'll see you again soon.